Alright then. So, I'm back after a week away. And hang on a minute. Ah, dear me. Thought I'd already dealt with this. Let's get rid of that. That music's just thoroughly depressing me, to be perfectly honest with you. Right. Yes. So after a little break, I am back, and I thought I would stream a little bit of Forza 5, which is currently part of the downloadable game for Xbox Live Gold. I won't say it's a free game because
Return to the Brickyard, the iconic Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Indiana.
I just don't need racing games to ever talk to me. I just don't. They don't need to tell me they're telling me, oh, we're going back to the iconic Brickyard, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it's right there on the screen in front of me. I do not need you to tell me it, game. So, anyway, yeah, I thought I'd stream a bit of this. I've not streamed a racing game, actually, for quite some time. This isn't going to be an especially long stream, so I'll probably just go for about an hour or so. Because racing games, they're a little bit difficult to stream over a long period of time, because what is it? You're just going round a track. Hang on a second, I can hardly hear myself think here. There we go. Now I can hear myself think. So, yeah, I'm racing in an Audi at the moment. It's a pretty decent game. I think if I'd have got this, this was a launch game for the Xbox One, I think I'd have been quite impressed with this at launch. I mean, I didn't get this at launch. As I say, I got this as part of the Xbox Live Gold membership monthly game allocation, and I've already played Forza 6, which to me is a much more impressive game, but given this came out, what, 2 years? Possibly 3 years? Was it 2 or 3 years before Forza 6? It's pretty good. Because launch games tend to be... well, they don't tend to be as comprehensive as ones that come after. Simply... stupid bastard. Simply because of the fact that there's not enough time to develop them properly. So it's normally the second and third games that are the ones that become the games that truly define what that series is on that console. And Forza 6 is an excellent game, and this is pretty good. I'm not seeing so far too many issues. I do have the drivatars enabled. I mean, good God, I hate that terminology. Drivatars, it's such a stupid phrase. You know, that reeks of some idiot in a marketing department somewhere dreaming up some crappy little catchphrase. I think they announced that at the same E3 that EA decided to coin the phrase "Levolution" with Battlefield 4. And that person needs to be turned into a tin of Alpo dog food as well. It just is cringeworthy, and drivatars is equally as cringeworthy a phrase. Now, I know some people have said that they ruin the game because it's not in-game AI. Well, there is a way of switching the in-game AI on, and I've overcooked that corner because I was looking at my stream. Completely messed that up. Yeah, you can actually switch to the game's AI by just set your console to offline before you load the game, or when you load the game, sorry, because I think you'll need to be online because it's well, I don't know actually, you might have to test that theory, whether you can access it offline or not, with it being part of the Games with Gold thing. I think if you have the game, the disc, or that you've downloaded and paid for the game, I don't think you need to worry. The main criticism I have of this, and it's actually one that it does share with Forza 6, the braking never feels right to me. It feels the brakes aren't responsive enough. They don't seem to slow the car down as quickly as they should. You know, on some of the old cars and bog standard cars, I can see that should be the case, but when you're racing a car that has you know, supposed to have the latest braking technology, you know, latest carbon fibre braking, I find it laughably bad at times, just how unresponsive they can be. But you do get used to it. I mean, I'm not expecting Formula 1 style braking, but I am expecting the brakes to be better than what they are. Well, that's about it, really. As I say, even with the driver task switched on like I have here, I've not really come across too many instances where I think to myself, dear God, you know, please make them go away. I've come across worse AI in racing games, especially in the new F1 game at the moment, and so I hope they patch that soon, because the AI in that is dreadful. At times they just plough into you and you get the penalty. I don't know how that works, but hey ho. But that seems to be par for the course with many Codemasters games, Codemasters racing, and particularly the F1 games. I don't know how they do it every year, but they seem to press the reset button on the AI. So as you can see, I've played this a bit already, and I do like it. I love the Forza series. I think this is probably my least favourite of the ones that I've played. I've basically played 2, 3, 4, now 5 and 6, but only because of the fact that it was
We returned to Switzerland to an event in the winter.
just a bit cobbled together, I think, in time for launching a console. Sorry, I'm not with it today. But it looks nice. And they built this from the ground up. This is a pretty nice looking circuit. Come on. one thing I had to do was actually turn off the... Jesus. Good God. There's no grip at all. I had to turn off the vibration function on the joypad to play this because it was so... I had to do that then to avoid the crash. And I'm steering the car, but it is not coming off that barrier. It refuses to come off the barrier. There we go. And that'll have taken the paint off. Now that was an instance there of the driver doing something really stupid, I think. Just slapping the brakes on and slowing right up while you're right behind them. Oh, he mangled my window. There we go. How many laps is this? 3 laps. Oh, there's no grip again. No grip. It's like the car's just on ice skates. Alright, let's get this together now. We've been messing about enough. Alright. We're on lap 2. Oh, we've got time to catch these two, I think. I do find that odd. Sheer lack of grip. I mean, the road isn't showing or displaying that there's any ice on it. Apart from, I suppose, it's implied, I suppose. I should get this person out of the way here now. There we go. Right, that's better. Normal service has been resumed. There are some... I hope I've unlocked a badge. There are some races, because you tend to start either in the middle of the field or towards the back. There are some races where one of the cars in front will just go off at an unfeasibly fast rate, as if they're not in the same rating category for the race as you are. That corner there is awful, and you can't catch them, which is kind of weird. And then other races it seems more sane. It can be kind of arbitrary. What's bizarre about this as well is there is an absolute absence of any kind of championship. You basically are racing for gold, silver and bronze. And you get gold for finishing in the top 3. So it's a bit of a... That is a bit of a gripe. You should only get gold for finishing first. It's a bit of a participation trophy type game in that sense. Because I mean that to get bronze, like gold, silver and bronze should be first, second and third. That's all there should be to it. But I think, I'll have a look when it comes to the next race, but I think bronze actually starts at like position 10, I think, if you finish 10th. And in some of the races you're actually starting about there, so you're already in a medal place when you start the race, which kind of means that the game is obviously sort of slight, I don't know, it's not, I don't ever get the feeling I'm in any kind of competition. You know, I don't pick up points. You know, there's no sort of in-game trophy kind of thing. You just finish, get the gold, and you race through until you've completed the requisite number of races, and then it's on. And it shows us the championship, as it calls it. Or we'll have a look at. I'll get the right terminology when I have a look at the menu. But it kind of says that, you know, oh, it's complete. I'm like, well, I don't really agree with that game. Thank you very much. That corner is horrific for grip. Mind you, what doesn't help is the fact that I've had to turn off the vibration function. It was, as I say, it was obnoxious, totally over the top, and was actually hurting my hands after about 10-15 minutes of racing. Was hurting my hands. It was that obnoxious. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. But then I'm not a huge fan of the vibration feature in the Xbox One controller either. I think in of itself it is obnoxious. There we go, that's it. It was much better in the 360 controller. 360 controller was fantastic, and I don't think the Xbox One controller is as good. Bizarrely enough, they made some questionable changes. The D-pad is awful. The RB and LB buttons being clicky buttons, I don't like. That they feel a bit cheap. And the vibration doesn't feel right. On the plus side, I think the analog sticks feel better, and the AB, X, Y buttons I think are better. But overall, I don't. Doesn't feel as right. But that's beside that. It's not a bad controller. It's just I just don't like it as much as I like the 361. The 361 felt a bit more better put together. This is a bit creaky, but I guess that's because of the vibration thing. Right, okay, so see, that one is there. Just looking at that one, that first place for the chase event is gold, but for the normal races, see, gold is third place. So let's have a go on Catalonia.
Scenic Barcelona and the Circuit de Catalunya, home of the Spanish Grand Prix.
Thanks, game. Thanks for telling me again that which I can read on the screen. That's not at all annoying. As I say, I have a bit of an issue with games that talk to me a lot. And the F1 game I've got does talk to you while your engineer talks to you, and you have to listen. And I've tried to turn down the verbosity of that, but it's still, the guy just prattles on for ages, and I just get really annoyed. Alright, so as you can see, yeah, there you go. So you get gold in third, silver for finishing 7th and above. Oh, sorry, between 7th and 4th you get silver. 3rd to 1st is gold, and 10th to 8th is bronze, which is just nonsense. Should be 1st, 3rd, 2nd silver, 3rd bronze. End of chat. Alright, so let's have a look at the starting grid. So you see I'm in 14th, so in order to get a bronze medal, I literally have to move up 4 places. Alright, okay. So, let us begin. I have the difficulty for is above average. A lot of this time, dude's got Nelson Mandela on the side of his car. A lot of the time, what I tend to find is the higher difficulties I would attempt if I had a proper racing wheel set up. Using a joypad, you don't get the same kind of tactile feedback. I might be going a bit too far. Oh no, just slip up the inside there. You can hear them lot bashing the living hell out of one another. Yeah, you don't tend to get the same tactile feedback from a joypad because you're not turning a wheel. You are moving the left analog stick left and right, which if you're thinking of controlling a racing game properly, is actually pretty... It's not natural if you're a driver. I've been a driver, it isn't a natural thing. My instinct is to sort of move my hands, not my thumb, to control a car. So on the higher difficulty, if I was going to go for the full-on difficulty, I would do it with a racing wheel to get the proper experience. As it is, just playing it with a joypad, it's just messing about. So as you can see, I mean, even on above average difficulty, with the settings as they are, I'm in a gold medal place and I haven't even finished a lap yet. Now you see that guy's kind of haired off a bit into the distance in first place. That's not the farthest I've ever seen somebody attain a first place lead on the first lap of this game, or a race in this game. I've seen them attain it far, far quicker. Far greater distance, which is improbable. Unless they were in a car that was completely in a different class to the rest of the field. As it stands, he's in an Audi, and he's passed up the inside. But yeah, overall, I do think it is a very good game. And, you know, like I said earlier on, they're building this thing from scratch. That's always a problem when it comes to content, because they've got to build a game engine from the ground up. They can't build on what they've already created, so content has to take a hit. And it does with this. Forza 6 has got far more content in. It's got more content in. That kind of implies this has no content in, and that's a little bit unfair. There is quite a few hours of gameplay. It is worth mentioning, and I don't know if this makes a difference, but this is the Game of the Year edition that you get through the Gold membership download. As I say, I shall refrain from calling it free, because it isn't, because you have to pay for Xbox Live Gold in order to get it. So, yeah, it is the Game of the Year edition. I think that just seems to have the Top Gear stuff in it, the racetrack and challenges, but I don't know what else it contains. There was some free car downloads, I assume that came as part of it, but there didn't really seem to be anything dramatic for the Game of the Year edition, which is surprising. I would have thought there would have been a considerable amount more content than what there was. If it's just a Top Gear track and races, that's a bit light on content, shall we say, for a Game of the Year edition of something like this. One would normally have different challenges, like for example, I think in Forza 6 they have like a NASCAR pack and a Porsche pack and so on and so forth. I don't know whether they had those or not for Forza 5, but I seem to recall that people were saying that it was a bit of a DLC fest, so I am quite surprised to see that the content for the Game of the Year edition isn't especially comprehensive. But nevertheless, like I say, that's not to say that there isn't content here. The problem is, like I say, the lack of the feeling that I'm racing in a championship of some description does seem to take a lot of tension away. I don't feel that I have to manage the races or manage my races at all. So far I've not come across a race that in any way, shape or form has required a pit stop. The game is supposed to... I'm going to go back in the options in a bit. I'm sure there's tyre wear. I do have damage turned on, and you know, for just reasons of bumping up the difficulty so I can level up. So let's just see here now as we go around this horrible challenging corner there the last time this race. In the F1 games, that is that section, sorry, I've just been through with a tight left-hander. Starts with the tight left-hander after the little straightaway. That's a really good way of ruining your own race by getting that completely wrong. The F1 games tend to be a lot more unforgiving if you get those things completely wrong than the Forza games, and that is one classic location that you can stuff up your race if you're not careful. And plus the fact that cars are going a lot faster. Well, anyway, that's Catalan, you're done. Yeah, pretty good. You kind of get a bit of dirt damage to the car, a bit of, I guess it's the marbles off the tyres. Alright. Okay. Affinity level going up. That's what we like. Come on. Alright. So, press Y to level faster. I haven't bothered with that. I've got this horrible feeling that's going to take me into a screen riddled with microtransaction options, which won't sit very well with me at all. I'm very anti-microtransactions. So let's just back out for a second here. And there you go. You see, although it says championship complete, I haven't because I've got other races. So this is just in one particular section. This is the sport section. So as you can see within this section, I've got 6 of series to actually race in. I've done the modern sports cars, iconic, hoopster. That sounds like something from Twin Peaks. And I'm on executive sport, and I've got modern muscle and American muscle revival. And although it says championship series complete, it also says I've only done 11 out of 17 gold events. And again, that's another thing. You don't actually have to race all of the races in order to attain the gold event. It's normally, I think, about here. About half, I think. Oh, there you go, 8. Yeah, so it's roughly half. So yeah, and then everything after that is a bonus that you don't actually have to do. But I do anyway for experience, money, and completionist purposes. So as you can see, these are the main league. It says league, but there is no league table. So as you can see, I did the sport compact. I've done all that. So I've done 100 out of 100 gold events. This is the one I'm working on now. See, they've got 6, 4, 6, 0 to 3. I think the races in that might become might be longer races. I'm hoping so anyway. So you know, there's a lot actually to do. Let's have a quick look at that. Yeah, so gold events 18. So yeah, there is a lot of content, but there's no huge variety to it. Forza Vista is just where you walk around the car, I think. Continue career league, select. What's that one? Ah, right, it's just the same thing. Okay. So when you back out, then you got your multiplayer, free play, rivals. Obviously, that's the marketplace. Just all that stuff. This is where you can upgrade your car. The really weird thing with this, and it is something that I've noticed, is the fact that they've kind of made the whole idea of, especially in career mode, of upgrading your car kind of redundant, because what you used to be able to do in other Forza games, you get the car, you'd level it up. And the game itself, the as far as I can recall, the other cars within the race would match. You know, they would step up to your level. In this, it kind of doesn't necessarily work like that. You do get to the point you level up a car and it'll say your car is ineligible for this event, and then you can either take the stuff off or let it automatically downgrade your car.
We return to England for another
That's
event at the famous
a
Silverstone
little
circuit.
bit disappointing. I noticed that with Forza 6. I did used to like the concept of being able to make my car better to make races easier, which essentially has kind of gone a little bit out of the window. Not fully, but a little bit out of the window. And that's not something that they ditched when they went over with Forza 6. So here we are at Silverstone. And it's, I think, just another straightforward race, yeah. So yeah, the RS5. There's Nelson Mandela again. So yeah, I mean, it's well worth checking out. I mean, I would have paid money for this. I have to say that. Well, I did, but I mean, I would have bought the game. I did actually come very close to buying a used copy of it, but it wasn't the Game of the Year edition. And I couldn't find a new copy of it in the local video game store, but they did have a used copy, but the case was a little bit dog-eared. They weren't asking an awful lot for it, but I just didn't want it. I felt that I could wait for a better copy, and I'm glad I did, because, you know, I do like having physical media of games, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to ever turn my nose up at not having to pay any extra for something. That guy's annoying me in that horribly coloured car that looks like somebody's thrown coloured paint all over her. Where is he? Gone off the damn track? I hope so. Right. I love how every time they show Silverstone in these type of races that don't have any kind of dynamic weather or any weather at all. That's another point I need to come to in a minute with this game. It's always cloudy. Now I get the stereotypical view, you know, cloudy old England, but we do actually have sunny races in Silverstone. There is documented proof that the sun does come out at Silverstone from time to time. Yeah, we'll get on to the weather aspect. This isn't a review, by the way. I'm just yakking while I'm playing the game. Chat's dead. Sod all people are watching it, which is of no surprise, because like I say, racing games aren't very much the thing that people tend to watch too much on live streams. From what I've seen, people tend to drop in and out because they just want to see, oh, does that game look okay? Because what you're doing, you're just going around a track, aren't you? You're not actually doing any missions in a game or anything. Anyhow, and also the fact that nobody watches these bloody streams of mine half the time anyway, but we'll move on. What was I saying? Yeah, there is an absence of weather in this game. I mean, well, there is weather. It's either cloudy or sunny. But aside from that, there is a complete absence of weather. There is no rain. Well, not that I've come across yet, and I've raced quite a lot of races, and there's no, there's no dynamic weather. There's no nighttime races that I've come across as yet. So again, you know, crikey. Car got a bit excited on me then. Yeah, there's not a whole lot going on there. Now, they did introduce weather in Forza 6. And it was very good because that was the first game that actually came up with I'm not going to make such a grandiose statement as saying that. I'm going to say it's one of the few games, if not the first, that the car, when it goes through a puddle, actually affects the handling of the car, as in terms of depending on which tyres go through the puddle. So say if you've got two sets of tyres that are not going through the puddle and another set are, it will pull the car to the direction of the tyres that have gone through the puddle, which is exactly what happens in real life when you go through any kind of water or any kind of relatively or deep enough water to impact the grip of the car. The resistance that the tyres on one side go through compared to the other will pull the car. And that was a good feature. But I'm a big fan of dynamic weather in racing games. I think it mixes up the game. But the problem with that is you do have to have proper pit stops because you need to change tyres, otherwise it's kind of pointless. I like a progression of time as well, which is something Forza games don't have. I don't know whether Forza 7 will amend that problem. They should do, because if they're going to make a big play about high dynamic range, then variable time of day racing in terms of a progression of time is important. There's nothing worse, than playing a game and doing an endurance race, and the time just doesn't change at all. I find that to be really annoying. It kind of takes you out of the immersion. I have done the Le Mans 24 on Gran Turismo 5. Now, obviously, I saved the game. I didn't sit for 24 hours and played it. But what was great was the fact that you started off in the daylight, and then it was in real times. It was a real 24 hours of racing. There was just that progression. Again, the skies would slowly start to darken, the sun would slowly start to set, and you'd get darker, and the headlights would come on. You'd go into the night, and it was just great. I mean, what I kind of did was race a couple of hours, save, race a couple of hours, then save. So it was about 12 sessions I did, and I actually won. But it felt great to play because there was just that feeling of, this is as near as damn it I'm ever going to get to race in Le Mans. When you try to do the Le Mans endurance in Forza 6, there's no time progression. You're just stuck at the default time of day. And it was just disappointing. I mean, it's not rubbish, but it's just disappointing because you just don't feel that you've gone through an endurance race. So I don't know an awful lot about Forza 7 because the E3 presentation, they just kept talking about the car that was on stage, the Porsche. Like, unless that bloody Porsche comes with the game, I don't care about it. And when I mean come with the game, I don't mean as a day one DLC. I mean the game Forza 7 comes wrapped around that Porsche. I don't even know what the damn thing was, but which Porsche it was. But I just couldn't. I mean that was the rubbishness of that presentation for me, was the fact that I actually learned very little about the bloody game itself because they were just. My brain switched off when they kept going on about Porsche this, Porsche that, Porsche. Yeah, it's a nice car, great. Can you tell me about the goddamn game? Because that's the thing I am going to be buying. And like I say, unless that game comes inside the glove compartment of that Porsche for £45 or $60, whatever, I don't care about it. And the sad thing is, I know that Porsche stuff will probably end up being DLC as well. But anyway, let's not go down that. You can also tell as well that the God Rays thing became a thing with the Xbox One, because they are everywhere in this game, and sometimes they're bloody annoying because you can't see the track. Yes, I know that's kind of realistic, but it's the usual thing is, here's something new, we're going to beat you over the head with it, until the part where you actually get fed up of it and don't care if you never see the bloody thing ever again in a video game. That fella seems to have got off quite wildly into the distance. Oh no, there we go, catch him up. That happens sometimes, they do seem to slow up. I've heard of catch-up logic, but only usually after you've overtaken a car, not when you're trying to approach the car itself. Oh well. So, yes, I quite like this circuit. It's like a classic Forza track that I enjoy. I think like Forza, Gran Turismo have those signature circuits that I always hope that they never drop, because the game just doesn't ever feel right without them, and they do drop them. But the one thing Forza has always had over Gran Turismo is the sound of the cars. The sound of the cars in Forza, I don't know how accurate they are, because that would require me to have driven all of the cars in this. And I have driven some of the cars in this. I have driven a Toyota Supra. I didn't own it, but I drove it, and no, I didn't steal it. The guy that we used to work for used to make me go out on errands when I was about 19 years old. And his incentive to make me go out for errands for him was he said I could drive his car. He was a lunatic, so he gave a 19-year-old his Toyota Supra to drive. And yes, I drove it, and I bloody loved it. And it was in an age before speed cameras, and that's all I'm going to say. And nobody got hurt. But yes, give a 19-year-old boy who likes racing things, like F1 and racing games and all that kind of stuff, the keys to your Toyota Supra, and he's going to make sure that he gets a real-life experience of just how fast one of them things can go and accelerate. But I never put a mark on that car, or anybody else's car for that matter, and no lives were ever endangered. And it was many, many years ago. So there you have it. No, I'm only joking. Right. No, it was many years ago, but I didn't do anything stupid. Jesus Christ. When you get behind the wheel of something that you cannot afford to have the headlight fixed, let alone anything else on it, you don't go nuts. You do not go nuts at all. And that's my official statements on that, and I shall leave it to other people out there to make their own determination on whether they think I went nuts or not. So that's that one completed. I've heard of people getting into trouble. Mind you, that's usually when they show footage of themselves driving the car like an idiot. That's never a good idea. Social media has been a thing which has brought the idiocy, shall we say, to the forefront in this world. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's quite tragic. Right. Keep levelling on up. How are we doing for time? No, not too bad. Go on. Let us continue. I have to say I've been disappointed from what I've read of Gran Turismo Sport. I had a lot of high hopes for that game. I cannot believe it's going to be some kind of cop-out, cut-down, token gesture, single-player version of the racing game in favour of this online bloody codswallop. They've had a long time to make a GT game for the PS4, and if it's this watered-down bullshit, I'm going to be very, very unhappy. And I'm almost certain it's going to be light on single-player content. I mean, I hate playing online games anyway. The only way you get a worse experience online is by playing a racing game against people online, because it is utterly pointless. It is the most pointless, stupid thing ever, because you just get wiped the hell out, and that's it. I mean, the only time I enjoyed playing racing games online was actually with friends playing Forza 2 and then Forza 3 on the 360 with friends. When I went and played against randoms on that thing, it was the most ridiculous experience ever of people that just will crash into you. They know no desire to race. They just want to crash into you and ruin your race. And that's just not enjoyable. And that's why if the main thrust of Gran Turismo Sport is going to be that is a game I am not going to buy. So that will be the first Gran Turismo game for a console that I have that I will not have played. I even played Gran Turismo 6, though I didn't own it. I played it. 1 second. Let's get this idiot. There we go. See, that is just like, okay, game, I'm blind now. That's incredible. Because what the game... Bless them. What the game developers didn't take into account, by the way, is people that race cars on circuits that have sun like that use tinted visors on their helmets. They don't actually actively want to blind themselves. But yeah, anyway. Dear God. And of course I overcooked the corner to celebrate. Yeah, that is a big disappointment for me. I'm not at all happy about what Sony and Polyphony... I blame Sony, even though Polyphony are the developers. Sony are the publishers. I blame them because they should have reined Polyphony in a long time ago and told them that they need to start making proper racing games for the PS4 or the PlayStation brand. And if they can't, they should have taken Gran Turismo off them and given it to another development team. It's one thing to have a game in development for years and you get it and it's fantastic. It's quite another to get a game that's been in development for years and it's watered down crap. What I fear is this is going to be like Gran Turismo on the PlayStation Portable, which to me was just a massive disappointment, because all it was just a series of one-off races. There was nothing, no kind of structure or career mode, and I've got this really horrible feeling that GT Sport is going to be absent of a career mode. And well, I mean, I think it's been almost confirmed that it's not going to have a proper career mode. It's certainly not going to have the content that... I'm rewinding, I'm sorry. I've got the brakes on full there. So I'm going to have to brake miles before the corner, which is ridiculous for a late breaker like I am. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, I mean, that's the best you're going to come up with. That's what you're going to throw at us, Sony. You know, this crap this online focused rubbish. No thanks. They haven't released a single Gran Turismo game on the PS4, and we are about to get the third, is it next month? The third Forza game, and they've had 2 Forza Horizon games. We haven't had a single Gran Turismo game, and the one that's going to come out is going to be content like garbage. I mean, hey, look, if you love online racing games, great. But no, for the reasons I've said earlier, because there's that many pricks online that just ruin the experience of racing games, I've no interest. You know, it's one thing to, if you want to play the game, bashing cars out of the way and stuff like that, single player, go for it. I don't have a problem. I do it sometimes. But I'm not ruining somebody else's race by doing that. You're ruining somebody else's enjoyment of a game if you're going to be ones that bash people out of the way. I had somebody in a Forza game, without word of a lie, that actually bashed into my car within about 2 seconds of the race starting. They actually, they were in front of me on the start-finish line at the start of the race, and as we went, they just braked and reversed into my car. And, of course, you got the damage thing switched on. Ruined the race. And I was just like, go out of there. Screw you. I'm not doing that. And it put me off. It's funny with friends when you're just all larking about, but when it becomes, you know, when you've got the offline mode that you can go and race in, but if you don't have that, what are you supposed to do? Bad Sony, naughty Sony, should have taken it off Polyphony, or told Polyphony they get a 2-year turnaround on Gran Turismo games, or they're out the door. Very easy. And talk about things that aren't easy. I bloody hate this track. It's not the worst racing track I've ever been in a game. And hang on, let me just get it. I hate the implementation of this track, should I say. Because I think he's kind of interesting. But it gets on my nerves. This is actually one of the tracks that sometimes a car will take off into the distance because it's such a narrow... It's a narrowish track, but also has a very twisty section that cars tend to get into a bit of a bottleneck. This and Long Beach are tracks where a car can, if they're at the front, take off and become uncatchable if you get snared up in all the goings on, which you'll see in a minute, possibly, maybe. It does keep having rigid start points for cars, because there's Nelson Mandela again, he always seems to be there. Crap! Right, damage, I'm not having that. Oh yeah, maybe we are having damage then. Well, that's just shunted me completely wide. And see, you're just getting shunted here all over the place. Because it's a narrow track. And there's 16 cars. It's not easy. But again, this is offline. Nobody's race is getting ruined except for mine. That car just rear-ended me. That's why my car twitched then. See, he just turned into me. See that? Absolute scumbag. This is where the drivatar wonkiness can be exposed in these type of races. But he just turned into me there. Well, no harm, no foul. He didn't do anything. I don't have to get out of my car and stick his head against the spinning wheel of mine. Oh god, I knew I'd messed that corner up. I'm just not a fan of this circuit at all. They're getting away from me now. Yeah, right. That's that bastard. Hang on a minute. That's the bastard who shunted me before. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to say, fuck off. I'm going to shut... Why is my car accept... Just hang on a minute. Actually, just going back here a little bit, because I want to know why my car was doing what it was doing then. So let's start again from here. Pop the brakes on that. This car is just... Whoa. Oh, there was another car on the other side that shunted me. Right, that makes sense now. I really hate this track. And this corner's a swine. I call it the Falcon corner there because it's got the Falcon advertising hoardings either side of it. I bloody hate that corner. Right. Well, they've managed to not get that far away. Now, he's a kind of a tricky right-hander here. Now, in some cars, you can actually take this flat out. Let's see if I can do it in this Audi. You got to barely. Problem you've got is you've got to be quick on the brakes coming out of that. And if you don't get the car straight, it's straight to brown trousers time at that point. But yeah, this isn't a favoured track of mine. I'm still in fourth. I should be able to at least get into a gold medal position here. Oh, dear God. How long have we been going for? I said I'd go for about an hour. See, they're just pulling away from me. I'm absolutely flat out, pedal to the metal. And they're just pulling away as if they're almost in a different class. It doesn't help when I do that, though. This is so frustrating. Right, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm going nasty on your ass. Sick and tired of you. I'm not going to get the guy in front now because he's been able to avoid all the fun times of dealing with the pack, and so he's taking that advantage to, well, I say he, could be a she because it's driver tars, to the fullest extent, and the chances of me being able to catch up now are pretty remote. Tyres are screaming. Is there shit? Yeah, shit tyres and shit brakes do not make Bathurst an interesting circuit to race. Well, they make it interesting, they don't make it enjoyable. This would be a circuit I would not miss if they dropped them out of a Forza game. Stick something else in there. I want them to put the... I like them to stick a track that you don't get on the F1 calendars anymore in there now. So, like Imola. I'd like them to put that back into one of these type of racing games. Or like ones from, like, really from the past. Like, shit. That's not a racing track. That's just me not quite getting that corner right. Estoril in Portugal. Kyalami. That's South Africa. Anything. Just... What is this shit car doing? Right. Well, we finished second, but we still got a gold medal because reasons. Yeah, something different. Take this bloody track out because it's rubbish. There, I've said it. I'm not going to be nice about it. I hate Bathurst. It's crap. I'm sure it's in real life. I'm sure the races there are amazing. But in a video game, they're shit. They just are. It becomes chance. And I hate games of chance. You know, you get snared up with the pack in this, you've had it. It's good night, Vienna. So, I've gone for an hour, and I think I'm going to call it a day. This wasn't going to be a long stream. I might. I don't know. No, I'm not going to say anything. If I'm back on later, I'm back on, but it's getting to dinner time now, and yeah, that's it from me. So thanks for the people that dropped in and dropped out. They probably heard me criticising Bathurst, and maybe they were Australian or big Bathurst fans and thought you bastard and pissed off, which is fine. And yeah, you see this up on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and thanks for watching it here too. And I will catch you all later.